You're listening to the Law Frog Radio Show with David McDivitt and Ross Ford on Kilo 94.3 FM. Presented by McDivitt Law Firm.
Ross Ford, how you doing?
Great, man. I'm really good. I had a home project that's finally conquered after 20 months I had to hang up barn doors for my wife in her closet. She wanted that done. So I've been doing that terrifyingly for several weeks. I did it last night and it didn't fall off. So that was a good sign. I'm really feeling good about myself.
I'm impressed.
Thanks, buddy.
You just bought another year of marital bliss.
Yeah, you never need barn doors hung. I'm your guy.
It's tough. I have a barn door in my house, and I did not hang it myself.
I owe you because you got me off on that death sentence I was facing a few years ago, and then boom, free man right now. So that's pretty cool.
Everything's looking up for you.
Really is. Really working out well. Okay, I'm trying to find the photo. There's a few weeks ago, Emily, host of the Kilo Rock Lunch, she does this thing called Name That Flick. She plays a clip from a movie. You got to guess what the movie is. And the movie was Pineapple Express. And she was going through the cast and the credits and stuff like that. And it was like David McDivitt was in the movie. And it's your picture as David McDivitt. It says you played the cop with a mole. And then we learned it might not be you, huh? Is someone going around pretending they're you and then doing movies?
You know, there's a guy out there. He has the same name spelled the same way. And there it is, cop with mole.
Is that funny?
He's living my dream.
Like from the TV, like a picture they taken like from a TV commercial that you were on or something like that.
All I've ever wanted is my own IMDb profile, and this guy has it.
Well,
you know what's funny?
People are so confused around here. Everyone was like, "What is this?" And I did some sleuthing and found out it's probably the other David McDivitt, but that's hilarious.
Yeah, it is. If you he can't like this, that I've got the same name and I've got I feel like I'm ruining his Hollywood aspirations.
People are always asking him legal questions.
Probably. His answers are probably just as good as mine.
Well, the legal world's difficult to wrangle. We have a bunch of questions that I have. I've actually answered some of these questions myself, and I want to see if I got it right or not. This is going to be fun today.
I'm excited.
Okay, we want to start, though, with something I shot you yesterday about apartment complex in Denver's suing a family who lost their father, and they're saying their father passed away, and the apartment complex is claiming his death breaks the lease, and they're trying to make the family then pay out the rest of the lease. Is that even a thing? How is that even possible? How are we discussing this right now?
Well, I guess the way to look at it would be, is there anything in the lease that would prevent the landlord from doing that? And absent that, typically it is allowable for a landlord. Now, I'm going to give you this caveat here, Ross.
There's always caveats, by the way.
There's always a caveat, and I'm not aware in Colorado that there's anything contrary to this. But traditionally, just in general, the way that leases work, the landlord and the tenant sign a contract, and that contract then binds the tenant to pay rent for the course of the lease. And let's assume it's a 1-year lease, so the landlord can count on getting monthly payments for that. And if the tenant dies in the middle of the lease, the landlord's entitled to pursue the rent from the estate of the tenant.
So almost like a timeshare scenario there, right?
Well, and it's only for the term of the lease. I mean, the thing with the timeshare is just like this in perpetuity. And so this, you're looking at maybe 6 months, 3 months. I don't know how long they had left, but what the landlord could do is just say, we're still entitled to be paid that out. Now, they may have, it looks like they're trying to trigger a lump sum payment for the remainder of the lease. I guess you could make the argument, if you were representing the estate, that you just keep paying it monthly. And oftentimes you can try to work something out there too, because what happens is then the landlord has now the opportunity to re-rent that unit and get into a new lease with somebody else. So, is it morally the right thing to do for the landlord to do this?
No.
That's an
easy no.
I would say it's an easy no. But at the same time, landlord's providing this this unit for the benefit of the tenant. The tenant dies, and it doesn't feel right, but at the same time, what's the landlord supposed to do?
It's a jerk move, Dave. It's a jerk move. So
it's tough.
For those listening, do you need to put something in a lease then to make sure it doesn't happen to you? Or do they have to specify in that lease?
You're probably not going to get that in the lease. That's the thing. Look, if you're talking about a property that's just, let's just say a single family home, and the person who's lived in the home for 10 years is ready to now rent it out. They're going to move out. They want to rent it out. They find a tenant. You're going to have, I think, more opportunity in that situation to negotiate the terms, where the tenant can say, look, if something happens to me, I don't want my heirs, I don't want my estate to be responsible. If you're renting an apartment from a large apartment complex that is actually owned by an out-of-state company that owns apartment complexes around the country, there's really no room for negotiation on those lease agreements, because they're just, they've got a management company that are locally, maybe on site, and their job is to just get the lease in front of you, get you to sign it. They're not going to be doing a whole lot of negotiating. They have wiggle room, I think, to negotiate, the rent to some extent. But as far as the core terms of the lease, those tend not to be very negotiable. You either take it or you leave it, and you don't have to rent from them. You can rent from somebody else.
Legal words. They're tough to get around. Well, that kind of parlays into some other questions we have, and it seems like a very popular subject, apartments and leases. We have citizen Kevin, who has lives in a complex. He's told he can't use the kitchen sink or the dishwasher, and it's going on 3 weeks or more now. I don't know where he's at now, but no access to either the sink or the dishwasher. Do I still have to pay full rent on a not fully functioning apartment? Interesting. I still say no. But I bet the answer is yes. And then also kind of piggybacking off that, it was citizen, who is this? Shauna, what legal rights as a tenant do I have to break a lease? She has safety issues and concerns with the office staff not taking precautions with the maintenance of the complex. So she figures it's a bad place to be. Can she get out of her lease? What do they do?
Shauna, you said?
Yeah, Shauna with the lease breaking, and then Kevin wants a little bit of money back, which is both, I think, are reasonable, but what do I know? I'm not a lawyer.
You know what? So this is the thing with these leases. There is an actual formula, a list of procedures that a tenant has to follow if they want to break a lease or have to pay less because they're having issues accessing like the core thing, like the dishwasher and the kitchen sink, and what you're supposed to then do your dishes in the bathtub, which, by the way, I have had to do before. I did a study abroad, and I lived in a small little apartment. I shared it with an Irish guy his name was also David. And
except he talks like this. My name's David.
Ireland. I'm from Ireland. My name is David. Let's go get some drinking on. I don't know how it was the world's worst influence on me was an Irish guy living in Paris, and we just spent all the time in an Irish bar, just trying to make friends, just trying to be sociable.
Good for you.
But we didn't have access to the kitchen because we got this really cheap rent, and so the apartment had a door that subdivided the kitchen, living room, and a bedroom from these two back bedrooms. And it was locked, so David and I only had access to a back set of stairs to these two little bedrooms and a shared bath, and we each had a hot plate in our bedroom. And David just made spaghetti all the time, always making red sauce spaghetti, and then he would go into the bathtub and wash off his pasta dishes, but he didn't always get the noodles down the drain. So I would go in there, and it would have like little noodles and red pasta sauce in the basin of the tub I'd have to use.
Dude, I bet it was a slippery tub.
Oh, it was disgusting. That was horrible. So now when I think about having to wash dishes in a bathtub, I just think of David McGuigan from Belfast.
It's a good euphemism for life, man. Be sure to get all your noodles down the drain.
You put your noodle down the drain.
All right, get your noodles down the drain, son.
So when you don't have access to the kitchen sink, and I'm guessing there's something, because typically your kitchen sink and your dishwasher, they're sharing the same water source and then the drain. So there's something going on there. And 3 weeks is a really long time for them not to get that fixed. So, my initial suggestion to Kevin is, follow the rules for putting your landlord on notice that you're actually not getting access the way that you should to your unit. There's this thing called this implied warranty of habitability whenever you rent. So no matter what is typically whatever is in the lease may not speak to this, but in general in Colorado we've got this implied like warranty of habitability. When you rent something, it needs to be livable. Habitable is a kind of a fancy word for it. Like I should be able to live normally. Like if there's a kitchen sink, I should be able to use my kitchen sink. I should be able to use the toilet, use the shower. And if it's got appliances, I should be able to use the appliances, right? But you can't just say, "Oh man, my dishwasher's not working, so I'm going to arbitrarily, knock off $50 this month from rent." Right? You can't just do that as a tenant. So you got to follow these rules of putting the landlord on notice and give the landlord time to remedy the situation. And then at some point you can actually just get out of the lease altogether. But sometimes that's not what people want. I mean, moving is a pain in the neck.
Right.
You got a place like it's great, except I can't use the kitchen sink and the dishwasher, and I'm washing my noodles and they're not going down the drain in the tub. So, it's a little tricky, but I think trying to have a good working relationship with your landlord is helpful. I mean, it could be that what Kevin can do is just kind of have some negotiation informally and saying, "Hey, look, I haven't been able to have this. Can you lop off, whatever for the next month rent, and can you get this fixed?" But you can go to, like, you can just Google what these remedies are, like how you actually, like what the steps that you go through. Like it's online. You can hire a lawyer too to help you, a landlord-tenant lawyer.
That'll offset any savings you get, though, probably.
Well, that's the thing. That's going to cost money, and that's why I say call the landlord and then follow up in writing too, so that you can say, like, we had a really good conversation today, and it's my understanding that you said that I can deduct X amount of money next month for rent out of my rent because of the fact I couldn't access the dishwasher and the kitchen sink.
And if anything, that might just speediate the fix too. They're like,
yeah, exactly.
We could be in trouble with this guy. Let's go ahead and fix it now. What about getting out of your lease if you feel like your safety is? I don't know what Shauna's exact safety issues were, but let's say they're cutting some corners and looks like maybe fire could be possible. Maybe they're removing fire alarms and stuff like that.
Yeah, where there's a guy who's just always in her closet. Yeah,
right. Yeah, like just some creepy people, and just if your safety is an issue, can you break your lease?
Yeah, and that might be the same kind of thing. It just kind of, I think, depends on the urgency of the safety issue too. I mean, it's so like this kind of vague. Not taking precautions with the maintenance of the complex that you said. Is that right?
Yep, that's exactly what she says. I have safety issues and concerns with the office staff not taking precautions with the maintenance of the complex. Maybe the thing's getting run down. You're going to fall through the stairs or something, At what point can you go, man, this place should be condemned. I need to get out of here now.
Yeah, and that's why you got to put them on notice of what you're trying to do here. It's the same. It kind of the same analysis. Although I think the thing that I'm concerned with in this one is just how dangerous is this condition? I mean, is it the kind of thing where it's life-threatening? At that point, you just got to get out altogether, and then you can sort through this
afterwards.
And putting them on notice, and then you could maybe kind of. There's this idea that you'd be able to backdate, like if this was a situation that's been going on for 2 months, for example, and you've put them on notice of it, and they're still not fixing it, and you've literally had to move out just unilaterally. You had to go find a safe place to live because of these things. I think you make the argument you can break your lease. Not only that, but again, you've got to follow these steps, and then you may be able to then say it should be retroactive, but that could require a little bit of back and forth, a little bit of, I say litigating it. I don't mean that maybe that you filed a lawsuit, but that you're negotiating to try to say, look, I'm not going to pay you for those 2 months where I had to live with my aunt because I literally could not live in this place. And I've also followed all the prescribed steps to let you know and to terminate my lease. And we've done all of these things, and you haven't fixed it too.
Right. So it's just like almost a lot of these issues we have, it starts with documentation. And that, again, sometimes forces the issue and gets something completed faster.
You're listening to the Law Frog Radio Show with David McDivitt and Ross Ford on Kilo 94.3 FM. Presented by McDivitt Law Firm.
Settle the score, yeah. Just hit 4?
Settle the score, just hit 4, just dial 4, settle the score, even the score. I figured out a way to rhyme the word score with 4. I'm just a genius.
Right.
Oh, and how about this one? I got the telephone number 720-333-3333. Hurt on your skis? Just dial 3s. We do a lot of ski crash cases.
Oh, man.
Also,
there's a very interesting case right now about the responsibility of ski resorts and injuries. A girl fell from a gondola a couple of years ago. She was paralyzed, and they're determining, what her cause of action. Because usually, those lift tickets come with, liability waivers, right? So is there anything
they do.
That poor family's probably not going to get anything out of this, right?
Well, it kind of depends. Look, in Colorado, we've got there's an immunity act, the Colorado Ski Safety Act, that immunizes these ski resort operators from a lot of liability.
Right, you kind of got to, otherwise those mountains would all be closed, my friends.
That's right. Now, somebody falling from a gondola might be a little different because there may be some kind of maintenance issue there. You're right. It's a little different. If you're actually just skiing down the mountain and you hit a tree, you're not going to be able to sue the ski resort. But if you hit a tree because a drunk skier behind you crashed into you and then you fell into the tree, then you've got a claim against the drunk skier behind you. And those are the cases where we tend to get involved. It's a lot of skier on skier violence.
Skier on skier violence. That's just people. Humans, we ruin about everything, don't we, Dave? Pretty good at that.
Oh, man. Oh, it's amazing.
All right, let's get to some more questions here. You can shoot an email anytime. Dave is nice enough to join us once a month, the third Wednesday of every month, as a matter of fact. And you can get us questions anytime. Just go to the contact drop down at the top of kilo943.com. There's a whole thing that says Law Frog. Email, name, and number if you'd like. Let's get to
Ross. Before we do that, one thing we just touched on it, and I don't want to move on too quickly. I don't want to bury the lead here, which was we were talking about how smart I am for being able to come up with rhymes like for and score and three.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I faded away from that. I'm sorry. Let's circle back around and talk about how great that is with your rhyming.
Just amazing. We can all agree. Okay, we can move on. I just wanted to make sure that we really hammer that point. Like my cognitive skills are just blowing.
I'll tell you what. You can rhyme something later in the show before we wrap. Like at the last break, you can do some rhyming if you'd like. You can throw out like the McDivitt rap or something like that to drive people to the website.
Okay.
Or your social media stuff. You got all those social media channels about you being a single dad and everything.
Yeah,
you can do some kind of rap about that.
Yeah, when you've got the genius level that I do, that's no problem.
Don't forget the lube. I'm on the YouTube. Something like that, maybe? Don't forget.
You just did it for me.
Yeah, think about it. I think the lube and YouTube is a very good kind of seg together. It just seems pretty smooth.
Oh.
All right, can we move on and help some people out?
Bingo.
Who's next? Let's go with the interesting one for the parking lot. My answer, by the way, I scribbled next to her question, Heather's question, no. Heather slipped and fell in a parking lot, hit her head on the cement, mess up her wrist, too. There was a lot of blood coming from where I hit my head, so she went to the hospital. CAT scan, x-rays, and that's something you should do, man, head trauma. Just ask Dave McDivitt. Head trauma is no joke, right, Dave?
It's serious. More than it's something I try to tell my kids every day. Like, look, just protect your head, protect your spine.
Protect your brain.
Good decisions.
So thankfully, Heather had no major injuries to her head nor her wrist, but wants to know if the owner of the parking lot can be asked to pay the bills, because obviously CAT scan, x-ray, not exactly cheap. The section of the parking lot I slipped on was not properly taken care of. Uneven section had ice, not marked with caution cones or any type of warning. One person that helped me said I was the second person to fall there that day. I didn't see this earlier. So this is a horrible little spot in that parking lot that was taking people out left and right. Is the folks who own the parking lot responsible at all?
Yeah. What did you write down?
I said no with an exclamation mark because I figured it's almost like the liability in the ski resorts. If you could sue every time someone fell in a parking lot, there would be no parking lots.
Well, it kind of depends on why they fell, too. If they just are clumsy when they walk, that's one thing. But if there's something kind of like hazardous condition here.
Really?
Then you bet. Yeah.
Tell me, lawyer. Tell me more.
She slipped. Why did she slip? She slipped because of ice, probably, right? Do we know?
But, Your Honor, it was a snowy couple days. Yes. Everyone should be aware of ice everywhere. It's Colorado, for God's sakes. There's going to be ice. It's an act of God.
No. Oh, my goodness. Here's the deal. You owe a duty. Your voice was great.
Thank you.
Your voice was great. I'm not sure about
I can command a room if I need to.
Yeah. No, she absolutely can't. Now,
really?
listen,
Okay.
I don't. We'll have to look at the strength of the case, but yes, here's the deal: if you fall on ice when you're shopping someplace, you go to a commercial center, and they have opened their doors because they want you to come in and buy stuff from them, and you slip on ice in the parking lot. They have a heightened duty to you because you're what they call an invitee. So in Colorado, we have a premises liability mechanism. It's a fancy word for saying responsible, like ownership of property, right? Like if you're going to have people come on your property, you may have a duty to make sure that they're safe.
Okay.
If they're a trespasser, that duty's really low. If they have been invited onto the property, though, your duty is much higher to them. So you want customers to come in and shop from your store. And by the way, it could be that when you say owner, you're the owner, and then you've leased out your property to different tenants, and those tenants are the ones where they have the shoppers come in. But as the owner, that benefit inures to you. That's the reason that you leased to these businesses, is so that you can get rental income, and the only way they can pay you money is if they have then retail income. So as the owner, that you are responsible for making sure that your premises are safe for the people that are coming on, that you've invited on to come and do business.
Wow.
So if there's a known condition, or you should have known, and if it's snowing out, bingo, you should know that there's ice could form. So you need to make sure you've got a crew out there shoveling the snow. Now, this is where it gets, like, the question is, can she ask them to pay the bills? Yes, she can ask them. And I think she has a reasonably strong case here. What a defense might be is, look, we have been shoveling all day. I have a crew out there, literally full time, shoveling the snow, and they had just shoveled that path and sprinkled it with ice. And in the 5 minutes that it took for them to then circle back to shovel it again, and they put cones out to say, this is a really icy patch, please go around to the other side, and she didn't do it. They may have defenses to it, but the core legal analysis is, did somebody come on that they wanted to come onto their property? Yes. Did that person get hurt? Yes. Did they get hurt because they have a condition that the person should have known about? Yes. And did they make any attempt to rectify it? Question mark.
Wow. Okay.
So
it starts with finding out who owns the parking lot, approaching them, saying, hey, fill in your parking lot. I don't want any money. I just want you to take care of my medical bills.
Okay. So So now let's get practical here. There's going to be a sign saying somebody who manages that property. Like almost all of these business areas, strip mall, or we're going to have some kind of sign on a door or somewhere. This property managed by, Ross and David Management Company, for example.
Has a ring to it.
Yeah. Ross and I kind of like David and Ross.
I like to see it that way, but whatever.
I think David Ross sounds like an actual person's name instead of Ross David.
Sounds like a serial killer. David Ross.
David Ross, isn't he a pitcher?
David Ross has struck again, his 14th murder.
He was hanging out in somebody's apartment closet, and she repeatedly told the management company David Ross was hiding in a closet. They did nothing about it.
Pushing people over in parking lots. So, what do you say the chances of? I'll give us a percentage of success getting them to pay for x-rays and CAT scan. Or at the very least, splitting it with her. How about that? I
think the success goes higher and higher the more she's willing to stick with it.
All right.
But they're going to say, no, we're not going to. I mean, they may say, we're not going to pay it right now, and then hoping that she just goes away. But if she doesn't go away, I like her chances.
All right. So give them hell, Heather. I was wrong.
That's right.
I said no exclamation mark. It should have been no question mark.
No question. Or how about just write the word no question, exclamation mark.
That's a good one. I'll use that next month.
Yeah.
So Elizabeth is basically what you guys do. Where did she go? What did she do right? What did she do wrong? And what she can do now? I was involved. Elizabeth says she was involved in a car accident where the vehicle turned left in front of her vehicle. The light for through traffic was green, but the out-of-state driver turning claims it was red. Since the turning lane opposite them was stopped, police report was filed up the next morning, saying no injuries at the scene. All paperwork driver provided to myself at the scene was expired vehicle registrations and no proof of insurance. Do I have a case against the rental company or the vehicle driver? to take any responsibility or pay for damages to her vehicle. So it was a rental car, out-of-state driver. That one I just put a question mark next to. I have no idea. This is your thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you hear that? I said, yeah.
That's it?
I said,
never
yeah.
have yes or no. I was talking about that earlier. It's like, some of these are so easy. You think it should be yep, no, yes, no, no, yes, no. But it's never that way.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Listen to the tone of my voice. It's not a hell yeah. It's a yeah, I think, yeah. No, I mean, so she obviously, it sounds like it's disputed, like who's really at fault here. So, yeah, can she make a claim? Yes. Now, I think her question is, if this person didn't have insurance, is that right?
Yeah. I'm trying to get
no
that.
Proof of insurance. Okay, well, just because they're showing no proof at the time or that the registration was expired doesn't mean that actually that's the case. And having expired registration doesn't really impact the availability of insurance. So she can file a claim against the out-of-state driver. Could be the out-of-state driver actually does have insurance. They just didn't have the card with them. Right. And they weren't able to show it to the police at the time. That's not uncommon. And especially, if they're out of state, that's what they got, the rental car. So then the next question is, did they select, they opt in for that rental car insurance as well?
The extra insurance that everyone says no to.
That's right. Yeah. But typically, if a rental car company is going to actually rent a car to somebody, the rental car company themselves is on the hook, though, at least for the state minimum, in a claim against the person who caused the crash. They're basically on the hook for part of that. But this goes back to this fundamental question, which is really who's at fault here. So that's why I say, yeah. I mean, do I have a case against the rental company or the vehicle driver to take responsibility and pay for the damage to my vehicle? Yeah, you do. Assuming they're the ones who really are responsible.
Yeah, but how do you prove that, in fact, the light was...
Ross, it's not always easy. It's really not. Well, I mean, that's the thing. Do you have witnesses? If the police weren't there at the scene, if you don't have the ability to figure out the sequence of lights, for example, you almost have to, put it together. Can you get access to the sequence of lights there? Right? It could be just go the next day and just kind of film what they're cycling through, but, maybe the cycle changed, but that's really unlikely. Or they're witnesses. What other corroborating information? Because look at it from the other person's side. It's I was out of state. I was driving a vehicle from a rental car company. The vehicle registration was expired. Well, that's on the rental car company. That's not going to be an issue, right? I didn't have my insurance, but I do have insurance. And what would they say? They I was driving and then some woman ran through a red light and hit me. So absent some kind of eyewitness testimony, it's really difficult. And sometimes the police will actually cite somebody for the crime, but that's just because they want to just complete the paperwork. And usually that's not the case. The police are usually very good about trying to figure out who was responsible. But oftentimes they'll say, look, we're not going to hit somebody here. We're going to ticket both parties. It's just really tricky. So you just hope you have the evidence to show something. And the police report's a good place to start. But cold reporting is tricky. And that's what they call this when they go and they file the police report the next day.
Yeah, because you don't have that police-backed info, basically. So you got to turn into a detective yourself then, it sounds like. You do. And these are tough cases. I mean, we get called by people with similar situations quite a bit. And sometimes we're not able to help because we say, look, it's just, there's just not going to be enough evidence. Yeah, right. You break their hearts, right? You're like, excuse me, we just can't get all those noodles down the drain, man.
You're listening to the Law Frog Radio Show with David McDivitt and Ross Ford on Kilo 94.3 FM. Presented by McDivitt Law Firm.
Yeah.
Remember, hurt on your skis, just dial 3s.
That's it. That's the new one. Hurt on your skis, just dial 3s.
Or hurt on your board. Just dial 4.
Call Ross Ford.
Oh, yeah. Well, no, because
you should hire me on retainer.
Snowboarding.
Yeah, if you're hurt on your board, call Ross Ford. He knows Dave McDivitt.
Well, okay. No, don't call Ross Ford because Ross Ford's going to tell you don't have a case because you fall in the parking lot on ice when it's clearly somebody else's fault and Ross Ford's.
I'm not a lawyer. I just try.
I just try to play one on the radio.
Couple other questions left. You can always shoot questions to us anytime. Dave joins us the third Wednesday of every month. I had a couple people trying to call, but we just got so many so many emails here today we're trying to take care of. But it's on the main page, kilo943.com. On the top, the contact button. There's a whole Law Frog thing there. Let's get to April. Another jerk. And not her, but she was jerkified. Someone stole her car, and she's still making car payments. She says the company she's making payments to knows about the theft, and they're helping her with any questions, but she wants to know, does she still have to make payments?
Yeah.
Yeah? I assume that was the case, too. But
yeah, no, and I said yes. This time, the yes is a definitive yes, but it's just I'm not happy about it, so I said it like this. Yeah. So, okay, Ross, put yourself in the perspective of the person who's sold the car to her, provided the financing. She got the car stolen, but they've been paying. They gave her the money to pay for it, and she has to pay them back. And now it's not their fault that the car was stolen. So that's why you have the opportunity to purchase gap insurance or comprehensive insurance through your own insurer. So it's
right. But let's say you are properly insured, and the insurance is taking care of it. They're going to pay the remainder of the car to the person.
Yep, that's right.
Then they have to kick you the money back. So if you continue making your $300-$400 payments. And
No.
What?
No, you're not then. At that point, if you've got insurance, you've got this comprehensive policy that says, like, if the car's stolen, we're going to go ahead and then reimburse the lien holder.
But what about the time in between, let's say, the theft of the vehicle and your insurance company finally getting whoever owns the car you're leasing or buying or whatever? It takes 3 months. Can they charge you?
You should get that money back.
Okay.
Yeah, you should get that money back. I mean, I had a situation like that happen with me where, like, I still made payments on a car that had been totaled. It was my ex-wife was driving this car, and I was paying for her to have this car, and unfortunately she got in a crash. Nobody was hurt, but they had to total out the car. And so I kept making payments until they could get everything squared away. They paid off the lien holder. It was a lease I had for her. And then I was reimbursed the amount of money I had continued to pay Kia for that. So it's the same. So, yes, she should continue to make the payments because she's responsible. Now, I don't know if she has insurance that's going to cover this. I don't know if did her question say that?
No, that was literally it. My car's stolen. I'm still making payments. The company doing all right. Help me with questions. Do I have to make payments? So the question is yes, but if you're insured and they're going to get the car paid off, then you best be reimbursed for how many months you have to pay that, because otherwise they're just getting extra cash right there.
But if you don't pay that, then you are now in default on
credit.
Right. Keep in mind that the loan itself is like a separate legal entity is not the right word. It's a separate legal piece of property from the physical car piece of property, right? Uh-huh. So you have a relationship, like this bilateral relationship with the financier, like the lien company, the bank, whomever provided the money for the purchase of the car or the lease of the car. Like you have just this bilateral, they pay you the money, and then you pay them the return, the car payment, whatever you call it. I would say maybe that's unilateral because we don't have a second party, but I say bilateral because it's going back and forth, right? They gave you the lump sum to pay for the car. You now make the payments back. That's one thing. That is a contract. It exists separate from the actual use and existence of the car itself now. Now, then separately, you have this relationship with the car, and you have access to this car. Now, again, if you stop making payments, that lien company can come in and then take the car because that was basically their collateral.
Right.
But the car has now been stolen. They've lost their collateral. You still have to make that contractually obligated payment to them every month. You stop doing that, obviously they can't come get the car, but they can then pursue you for other, for the default value of that, like the remaining payments, for example, any payments you are in arrears, and they can come after your assets to get that because they can't get off the car.
And it all starts from some jerk that can't keep his hands off your car, man, or some kid that learns how to do it on the interweb. Steal your ride. Terrible. All right, hey, we only got 3 minutes left, so let's get to this one. A little bit wordy, so I'm going to make a shortened version of Adam's question. He works for a security company. He has a secured site dealing with classified information. I mention this all the time. This town is so eclectic. You have no idea who you could be standing next to in line at a store or whatever. With all the military folks and stuff like that. Anyway, the building is controlled access. parking lot and surround property is not controlled access. One of my guards had an instance where an unknown individual, presumably homeless, left a backpack in the grass of our property lines. The guard eventually took the backpack and chucked it to the dumpster on our property. Then the guy showed back up and was angry, threatened the guard before walking away. And he wants to know, would that backpack be considered abandoned property? And did the guard have authority to get rid of it? Especially on a site like that, you don't know what's going on. I'm going to go with the finders keepers theory and say yes. Finders keepers. What do you say, lawyer David McDivitt?
I feel less secure on that one. Speaking of secure property, you see how I did that?
Yeah, yeah.
Again, that's genius
amazing.
play. Yeah.
I'm going to actually ring the bell for this guy. That was a good one. Good job, dude.
I'm not so sure. I think first of all, it's kind of a jerk move. Like, you see a guy leave his backpack and go to the 7-Eleven because he's going to obviously buy something. And then you just while he can watch you take his backpack and you just throw it away.
Chuck it.
I mean, it's kind of like, there's an argument that the guy, that the backpack owner could say that it was a kind of a civil theft. Like, you tried to deprive me of my property intentionally. So I think a couple of things. Number one, the guy was a trespasser, first of all, it sounds like. He came onto their property. It's secure property. They could ask him to leave. He could have put the backpack on the other side of the property line for the guy. I mean, obviously, you don't know if you're worried it's a secure property. I'm like, is this an agent for a foreign government who has put some kind of a bomb in that backpack?
Right? Is it sinister?
Right. I've been watching Jack Ryan lately. It's like, I'm worried about everything right now. There was probably a more civil thing to do there as far as dealing with that man's backpack. I mean, that is his property. I would not argue. It does not sound like you have a really clear argument that this was abandoned property. I mean, he was putting his stuff down, and then he went to the store across the street. Presumably, he's going to come back. If the guy comes out of the store and then just like hoofs it and runs away, maybe at that point you say, okay, well, we can't have this.
Yeah, why do you leave it? Why is it running? All right,
yeah.
See that. But I mean, I know, like, if I was walking into a store to do some shopping and I put my bag by the door and walked in, I would pretty much expect it to be gone by the time I come back out of the store.
Well, yeah, because somebody, what's the word? Stole it. Stole it. That's the thing. It's like this. It's like the security guard stole it, but then didn't keep it. He threw it away. And by the way, as I said it, I hopped from one foot to the other to emphasize the point. Nobody can watch me right now. This is great. I'm in an office. I don't know. Like I said, I don't feel really secure in my answer there because you've got just so many different legal elements and arguments you can make. Like and I think we're coming from the point where let's call him the homeless guy wants to press charges or wants to file a lawsuit for civil theft against them. Like, what would what are the strengths of that guy's argument? What would the defenses be for the security company? Alternatively, what are their affirmative rights when somebody comes onto their secure property and leaves a bag? I mean, that alone to me screams like security threat.
Right.
But wasn't enough of a threat. I mean, so the security guard felt so threatened by it that he just went up, grabbed it, tossed it in a dumpster. Like, so that's not how you deal with a real security threat. If he used like some incineration robot that came out there and just burned the bag to non-existence out of a very thorough safety measure. I almost feel more secure with that.
Yeah, right.
I really honestly do.
I just love robots that shoot fire, right? How cool is that?
That's awesome. It's just like out of... never. My genius just expired. What's the movie with Mike Myers where he's Austin Powers?
The Austin Powers movie.
Yeah.
Where are we going with that?
The robot bras.
Oh, yeah, the fun one.